Hello, Jigwich. Welcome back to the show Fosrash Wig on show. This week on Toghcháin show for episode number 74 of Gaeilge Weekly. Agron iver a Toghcháin to Gaeilge Weekly. My name is Liam. It's Michelle Liam, and as always, a big thank you, Gurmila Mahagav Mar Iskanok, for tuning in to the show as Tunal the Stock Wig on show. Gaeilge Weekly, which comes out in association with Learn Irish Online. Gaeilge Weekly on Podcréile a hagan amach I go fortseocht le Learn Irish Online. Cunas atá Shiv Galir, how are you all, guys, on Toghcháin show this week? Everything good, everything calm, everything cool here in Seville. So gachrad sucker, gachrad guma on show I Seville. Of course, bit of a crazy last week in Spain. So le seachtain na nús tá sé or bhí sé sais crackalta on show to spawn, but thankfully not too much here in Seville. Buics le gia ní rá sé róghana hís on show I Seville, but I'm sure most of you have probably seen the images. Tom Cinnte Gwil na Ivana Fekia Egg on Goods Moagav Anish, and those are the images principally from Valencia, but also other places. So na Ivana on Goods Moachu to Valencia ach freshen Otnelak. Ní small na Einachella more than any other place, Valencia. And those are the images of the floods and the effects of the horrible floods up in the Valencia region. So na Tuilte agus stoch na héfachtaí ó na Tuilte freshen who's in Valencia city, but more so in Valencia province. I gahar Valencia ach níos mó I province Valencia. The city wasn't quite on the same level ní rá rudí an level céine sa gahar I hain. But pretty crazy scenes, pretty tough to believe. You know, rarch na crachalta agus rarch na Toghcháin. Unbelievable scenes, really, especially when you see the different images of the aftermath. Gohorithe nor echan tú na Ivana, hui cunas a bhí sé agus cunas atá sé anis taréis na Tuilte after the floods, and you hear the numbers as well, over 250 dead. Nor chluiseann tú na Himhreacha freshen níos mó ná gCéad is a chuige duine anis marav, and let's be honest, there's a good chance they might find more people in the next days. Tá seans má go dtiocfaí siad níos mó daoine as chéad cúpla lá eile in the next few days. So yeah, here in Seville it wasn't bad at all. I mean, it did lash rain, so ní raibh sé go donna churbe on so is Seville. To give you some idea, Valencia is probably, I don't know, maybe 300 kilometers from Seville, 300 kilometer. Seville, Beijer, yeah, harder 300 kilometer capam around that. It's not much more and much less anyway. Nil say a wad ní smó, no a wad ní slú. So chor, Beijer, dóki sé seacht nor, no ocht nor. In the car it would maybe take 7 or 8 hours, so not that near, but same country, you know, not that far away either. Nil say Rawada ag anam céine, you know, ní hochach sé ach bidir charch nóméid no quail nóméid san Echelon. It would only take 40 minutes or 50 minutes in the plane all airport. Sevilla airport, Valencia. So here was lashing rain Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and seo bhí sé stalabáistí Lún to Mort agus gCéadaoin. I think it stopped about 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon. Stop sé hartar a chuig no séchlog Cronona. gCéadaoin Scotcha last Wednesday, and then after that it was dry for the most part. Bhí term to chuid. Now the rain was very heavy, but you know, we bossed the honest from BHFAD ach there were no floods near out in Tuilte as cod a hunnic me féin was from what I saw. At least, you know, you could still go outside. Fos vi doing an dul even with. Just you had to bring your umbrella with you. Viert the scaffarnia a harch lat. It was weird because I don't really read that much of the news. Vi seachtach mar ní bhíonn mé ag léamh mór an te nuacht which I'll go on to speak about why probably over a lot of this podcast is tócha an gcuid mód in the fudcréile seo by me ag labhairt faoi cén fá. But the way I found out that it was more than just some days of rain, an chuí hánig me an ólas sin nó an chuí a bhór me amach, the way that I found out was through my students, trí mhicléin. Bhí me ag labhairt le wachléin nó bhirts an Tagann Scots an Lún agus an Mort on Monday and Tuesday, speaking to one or two students, of course online through Google Meet, through Zoom, things like that, through Google Meet agus Zoom agus really mar sin. And they asked how the weather was in Spain, that they had heard that it was quite bad. Chuir siad ceistem chuna sa bhí an aimsir sa Spáin, chuala siad go raibh sé go donna. And I was thinking, well, yeah, it's raining, but this time of year in Spain, it always rains for 1 week. Hartar an amsa sa Spáin I gcónaí bíonn sé churbáistí fran seachtain. End of October, start of November, Dara bhí dhearaf over, no tús bhí na sauna. Before that, it's quite hot. River sin, tá sé sochte. After that, it gets a good bit cooler. Taréis sé sin, tá sé réasanta níos fóra. It kind of jumps from summer to winter. So a rain sé on Saura, goodzy on Givra. So I wasn't thinking much of it, and it was only when I looked it up after my students told me níor méid smaoin of more an faoi ach ní seach nor a rinne méid chuirtú Google agus thug méid cad a bhí ag tarlú sna áit an eile sa Spáin, what was happening in the other places in Spain. And of course, you know, like it always is with the news, unfortunately back at home, mar bhíonn sé an Tuirchóir arás in Éireann arás Soália leis an nuacht, it's always, oh, floods hit Spain. You know, tá Tuilte ag an Spáin. It's not floods hit this region in Valencia, tá Tuilte ag an áit of Valencia, or floods hit this area in Malaga, tá Tuilte ag an áit in Malaga. It's always just Spain in general. And then I have people messaging me, asking me how it is. Tá daoine chuir cheistem you chunas Toghcháin, and I'm saying whatever you're seeing on the news is nothing like it is here. He'll say cosúil le chunas Toghcháin seo churbe. But unfortunately that's the way the news is most of the time. Sin an chuí a bhíonn an nuacht an chuid smód an especially nowadays go háirithe sa lá atá an neamh, with people just reading headlines and news organizations just pushing headlines more so than the actual content. So agurachtaí nuachta a chur na Ceann líonsaí chun cín promotion headlines níos mó ná an talt nó na halt iad féin the article or the articles themselves. But then it was when I was starting seeing the images an sin thosaigh mé ag féchant sir na híbhána, and it's, I suppose, I don't read much of the news in general. Ní bhíonn mé ag léamh mór an sa nuacht go generalta. I don't really follow too much of what's going on around the world. Ní bhíonn mé ag leanúint mór an faoi cad atá siúil fud an ann for a few reasons. Tá cúpla cúis, cúpla fá leis sin. Firstly, I think same reason as a lot of people who did the same, you know, fá chéine le a lán daoine a bhíonn ag déanú an rud céine. No, it's quite depressing. And it's quite kind of dark and sad. Tá sé sách dorcha agus brónach, and it's not often you read the news and feel better after reading the news. Ní tharlíonn sé go minic go mbíonn tú ag mothú níos fearr tar éis an nuacht a léamh ná mar bhí tú roimh an nuacht a léamh. So I suppose that's one of the reasons, but also I find it tough to kind of relate to or to really think about stuff going on the other side of the world. You know, gcónaí tá sé deachar dom chun smaoine faoi agus chun mothú like slíorí to feel a certain way for rudí siúil an taobh eile den down. This might sound a bit selfish, beidir go mbeidh cuma seo go bhfuil mé anna chungrach dom féin, that I'm very just close to myself, as we say in Irish, but very selfish in English, in Merla. But for me, all I focus on rud amháin a bhíonn mé ag tíre isteach here. I suppose it's the thing or the things going on directly around me. So na rudí a bhíonn siúil díreach timpeall. So the things going on in Spain, the things going on in Ireland, the ruddy a bhín ar siúil an seo sa Spáin, and the things going on back home, the ruddy a bhín ar siúil arás in Éireann, arás Sáile, especially in Galway, go thuirthe in Náilliamh. So, people, long-term listeners to the podcast, daoine géisteacht lá an fada leis an bod chéile, seans ma, no seans, you might be saying, well, you never talk about news or politics or tragedies. Ní bhíonn tú riamh ag labhairt faoi tragódaí, no nuacht, no rudí idirnáisiúnta, kind of big international things an bod chéile, scéalta nuachta, news stories. So why are you talking about this one? Cén fáil bhfuil tú ag labhairt faoin ceann seo? And I suppose it's because it's something that's happened in the country where I live. It's rud é a Harla sa tír ina bhfuil mé I mo chónaí. Listen, I'm not Spanish, ní Spáineach mé. I'm not from Valencia and I've never lived there. Ní as Valencia mé, agus ní ra mé riamh I mo chónaí an sin. But it's much closer. I'm not putting down other stuff that happens in the world. Ní mé a chur rudí eile síos, rudí eile a bhín ar siúil ar fud and down. The obvious examples would be look at everything that's happened in the Middle East over the last year or two. Féach ar gach rud ag tarlú sa meán orthu le bliain nó gó anús, agus níos mó ná bliain nó gó anús, more than the last year or two, but especially go thuirthe le bliain nó gó anús, especially over the last year or 2 years. Look at what's happening in the US as I'm sitting down in the space of this half an hour of recording the podcast. Tíbhaiste gen lá óir seo agus mise ag tafaidú an fud chéile seo. Millions probably of Americans will go to the ballot boxes by na milliúnaí Americánach ag dul chun vóta ó chóirt agus vótáil ar son Harris, Trump, nó beidir den eile freisin sin san stáiteinte agus níl mór an saoimagam, not that interested. Rud eile is tócha maidir leis an Ucrán agus an Rúis, beidir leis an Ucrán agus an Rúis with Ukraine and Russia. I am a bit more interested in that and what's going on there. Beidir go bhfuil níos mó sima agam is sin agus cadatá ar siúil an sin, and that's not because I think it's worse what's happening there or bigger what's happening there than other places. Ní é sin marial go gheapam gohfuil sé níos mó nó níos tábhachtaí cad ar tá ar siúil an sin. But I suppose it's closer to me. Is dóilm gohfuil sé níos cóngraidm. It's in my continent. Tá sé ar an mórín chéine mar óil mé féin. And I've been in countries close to Ukraine who may lantíortha go dtí seo díorchanacha leis an Ucrán, an Fólin, agus an Ungar, an Slovak, freisin, cúpla áit mar sin. So I've been in places like Poland and Slovakia and Hungary, places right beside us. So it's closer to me. Tá sin níos cóngraí dom, and I suppose in some ways it has more of an effect in my life. Tá sunker níos mó aige im a héal. So I always find it difficult, and I as selfish as it might sound, a rís beidir gohfuil sé seo an chungarach dom féin, but I'm not really that interested. Níl mór an sima agam ar chadatá ar siúil ar an taobh eile den down and what's going on the other side of the world. Sure, if I can help people struggling in any way, má tá mé an charú le daoine ag fullings in ein chuí, in ein slí ar churbe, déantaí mé, I'll do it. But most of the time I don't feel like I can when they're that far away. Gomininic ní bhíam gohfuil mé an ar churbe nuair atá siad chomh fadamhain. Also, you have the issue of the news again. Freisin tá an aibagad maidir leis an nuacht, and you don't really know what is going on the other side of the world. Níl is agad cadatá ar siúil ar an taobh eile in town. Again, even just comparing Spain and Ireland and the distance between the two countries, which isn't much, níl mór an achar, níl an Spáin roáda really ó Éireann. But sometimes when I'm in Ireland and I read news about Spain, I'm like, that's not true. Like, níl sa sin fear. Nuair atá mé in Éireann agus nuair atá mé ag léamh scéalta faoin Spáin, and vice versa. Here in Spain, an rud céine nuair atá mé seo sa Spáin, agus rís ag léamh an nuacht, agus maybe some story comes up involving Ireland, beidir go dagan éar sús I scéal éigean, and I think that's not true. That's not the best way of telling that story. Ní sin an chuí is fearr chun an scéal sin a inch. So if that's between Spain and Ireland, imagine how untrue a lot of the news could be stuff going on the complete other side of the world. Saolaí céadh bréagach agus atá nó well agus a bhéach cuid den nuacht a bhfuil muid ag léamh faoi rudaí an tíbhile down, and so many organisations are biased towards one or the other now, and maids agriochtaí atá cléanta taobh amháin nó taobh eile on one side or the other. So especially when something is so far away from you, go háirithe nuair atá rud éigean chomh fada, it's tough to know well where you stand on it. Tá sé deachar an is a bheith agat cá bhfuil tú agus cin chuí a bh chéann tú faoi which way you feel about it. But with things kind of directly in front of you in your everyday life, people you meet every day, the community you're in essentially, an pobl ina bhfuil tú daoine a bhíonn tú ag bualadh leo gach lá, you know that's real. Tá is agat go bhfuil sé sin fear. It's right in front of you, tá sé díreach os the chóir, and it's much clearer. Tá sé bhad níos soléire. A very quick interruption to the podcast with a little reminder that if you are enjoying gCéadaoin Weekly and you are currently learning the language, that there are a whole load of other resources, video and podcast series available over at patreon.com/learnirishonline for LIO members. We produce a lot of different content over there, all designed at making it easier, simpler and more enjoyable for you to learn Irish in an effective way and learn real-life Irish, both how it is spoken and how it is understood. We produce series such as Eistearish, Léirish, Egastrú, Button na Go, and there's a whole archive of content available over there for just €7 a month with new episodes uploaded every single week. If you're not fully sure if it's for you, then that's fine. We've enabled the 1 week free trial, so you can go back and check out all the content we've made over there on the membership from the last 18 months and see if it's for you before deciding if you want to give any money to it. Along with, of course, helping yourself in terms of learning the language and making it hopefully a more enjoyable and easier experience, you're also supporting us at Learn Irish Online to further promote the Irish language and help more people around the world learn and make sure that the language in the future is more widely spoken. So it's not just you who's getting benefit out of it, but it's people across the world who are interested in learning the language but might not know where to start. Big thank you for listening to gCéadaoin Weekly as always. Now, back to the podcast. You know, stuff this might sound horrible, but you might come out ufásach or sure, but a lot of stuff in the news, it just doesn't feel real to me. You know, ní bhóithíonn say fear, domsa. But what does feel real to me, and more so than that, what feels important to me, an rud a bhóithíonn tábhachtach domsa agus freisin fear domsa, is the people in my life. You know, I think it happens a lot. Tarlíonn say go minic nowadays a lot on on, especially with the internet, and people are so interconnected around the world. Tá daoine có ceangailse simple and down. People are so obsessed with what Trump has said on Twitter. Tá daoine chomh gafa le cad atá le rá ag Trump Twitter, or something horrible that happened in the Middle East rud ag an ufásach a tharla sa meán ortha. I'm not comparing those two things. They make Jane Comprod, it's your on Dávrad Chin, just talking about different things that come up in the news to make largely ruddy Jeffrula a hagan sus sanucht, or about new nuclear missile testing in North Korea. That people forget Jin Dini Darmid about the things straight in front of them and the people straight in front of them. Dini Zirk Osagor. You know, maybe you're so obsessed with these things you fail to see Beidir Goil to Cove Gafa leis na rudi seo. You forget to see that one of your friends is really struggling with their mental health, for example. Goil Ceann Toghcháin ag stracalt lena miar láinse. And maybe he's thinking about ending his life. Beidir Goil take smoin of we love a chur in the vás féin. Or maybe we don't see the issues that are actually affecting our own community. Beidir nach echenmuds na mionnaibena agus na faibden generalta, the general problems will sunker acu our bubble hain that have an influence and an effect on our own community. I think when people talk about how disconnected the world has become, there bhíonn daoine ag labhairt faoi céadh dlí cheangailse agus atá an down an ish, and especially you often get this, I suppose, around America and people not being able to have conversations with each other or to find to a seo níos mó America na Stát Aontaithe níos mó ná an eile, and that's that people can't kind of see what's right in front of them and forget about their communities. They're so lost in maybe what's going on over in New York or California, and rud éigean ar an taobh eile den down, people forget about their family, their friends, their community, and the real stuff they see every day. Na fear rudaí agus a glán, a gordsa, and the real news in your life, not necessarily the news on TV or the news that isn't having as much of a direct impact in your life and in the life of the people around you. Ní an nuacht nach bhfuil mór an sunker aige ar the héilsa agus sail the chóirte, sail the clown, and if every kind of person in the world, in my opinion, in Mohiramse, they'll make gach duine ar falling down, if they were able to just deal with and help and make sure that everyone is okay around them, then the world would be a much better place. They'll make gach duine in an cara leis na daoine simplíir who bheitchan down a bhhaid níos fearr. It wouldn't be perfect by any means, ní bheadh sé fearfa ar churbe, but I think it would be better. You know, because often, again, things far away, there's very little you can do about it sometimes. Gomininic le rudaí I bhfad dúirt, níl mór an go fréid leat déanú, but there's always so much you can do in your own community, in your own county, in your own country. Tá méid sin rudaí go fréid leat déanú I the seachtain, I the phobalthain, I the chunnaithain, agus I the thiarfáin. And I think a lot of people sometimes just forget that daoine dearma there sin. You know, it's like giving €10 to a charity, and again, not giving out about charities, so tá sé cosúil le €10 hort go chorthanas, agus ní méid tuairt amach faoi chorthanas, but you don't know where that €10 is going. Maybe it'll be used for some brilliant work somewhere. Seans go núsáid fré chun carú le obair iontuch áit éigean to help with some brilliant work. But you don't know, it might go where it shouldn't go, or there might be a load of fees on the seans go maiil an tálaí agus rudaí mar sin. While if you know someone struggling, or if you see someone homeless in your own community, má echan tú duine éigean gan zíd an I the phobalthain, duine éigean like fullings. Well, given €10 to them, okay, you might not be fully sure of what they're going to do it a chance má nach might tú einchéad fungéad cínsa cad I dhéanfaí siad low, but you can probably have more confidence in it or trust in it, and you can, the impact and the help I think is more direct. Tá an chabhar agus tá an sunker buganí níos díorcha, more direct, and I think that's important. And it's one of the reasons, for example, I wanted to speak a bit about Valencia today, is because when it's something that happens somewhat close to you, Arish Nilme Imachoni in Valencia. I don't live in Valencia. I'm not saying I was affected by the floods directly in any way. I wasn't. Nime grow tunker egg na Tuilte Ermsa in Velach Niro or Herbe. But when something happens close to you, it does change the way you think of things. Like Bulan Shehu Buganin, it hits you slightly different. Buganin Zerfrul. I suppose with something like the floods, you think how devastating it is for people, you know, swing to if we Cichomh done agus tá sé le haidíní agus an maids fullings atá gceist agus a bhaid I gceist leis in the amount of suffering that has been involved with it so far and that will continue to be associated with it, because imagine you lost a loved one, saolaí má tá duine ag an chungurt tar éis bás all sna Tuilte in the floods. That's your life change forever. You know, it doesn't matter if the full place gets cleaned up and houses are given to everyone. Like níl sé seo an tarlú, this isn't going to happen. Nach saolaí dá méid a lot ar fad glanta agus just change her grass. See, conna sa bhí sé back to how it was. If you lose someone, they're not coming back. You know, má tá duine éigean tar éis bás all níl siad chun teacht arás, and people are going to have to live with that. You know, again, you might think 250, it's not that big a number, but níl gach sa chuige ar a war, then think every single one of those people, gach duine as gach sa chuige, they probably knew 100, 200 people, seans go raibh aithne acu or einchéad, beidir gach duine. So it spreads out and out and out, and again, probably more people to be found. Seans má go dtuchi siad ar níos mó daoine, níos déanaí an seachtain seo later this week. So it's tough to take anything positive from it. Tá sé deachar an aon rud dearfach a hógáil why, but I guess one of the few things you can take ceann sanna rudí go fréid leat tógáil ná to be grateful for what didn't happen. It's always spoken about, being grateful for things that you do have and things that did happen, and gcónaí le réitir faoi an tábhacht, the importance faoi bheith bhuíoch as rudí atá agat agus rudí atá ag tarlú. But sometimes it's important to be grateful out of what you don't have and what isn't happening, as na rudí nachhfuil ag tarlú agus na rudí nachhfuil agat. If you think, I suppose, a lot of people listening from Ireland, as they're tuning into this podcast, tá lantíine géisteach in éireann agus sibh sé géisteach leis an budcréile seo. The easy example back at home would be we're always giving out about the weather. It only been as a gearan when I'm sure, but we're very lucky that we have very little extreme weather. Even more an I'm sure again, because le sin le stormacha on a crua. I know we do get some storms throughout the years. Some people do die as well. Normally every year, through storms in Ireland, find cúpla den a boss, gach blin and éireann. But in most places in Ireland, it's not anywhere on the same level of, let's say, the scenes we saw in Valencia this week. And say, level Ceann no congrach churbe the chad a honnig muds in Valencia on seachtain Toghcháin. Or even for me, I could have very easily been living in Valencia. If you're an Irish person living in Spain, mas éarnach who is a choni sa Spáin, it's much, much more likely that you would live in Valencia or Barcelona, somewhere else where there's been a lot of floods, áit an eile, or on Tuilte acu. Much more likely, chance of wadni smó, that you would be living there, gomeich to i the choni an sin, than anywhere else in Spain, not in áit eile sa Spáin. I myself lived in Barcelona for 2 years. Vi me féin in Machoni in Barcelona fra Gavlín. I never lived in Valencia. I've been there, of course. Vi me in our Noi River shot. I was there before. And there's loads and loads of Irish living in Valencia, probably 5 times as much as there are here in Seville. Chance mag will cúig orní smó éarnig in a gcónaí an sin in Valencia ná an seo is Seville. So in an alternative reality, good chance that I would be living there. Chance ma gomeich me in a choni on sin. So, yeah, I know things like that do make you think, and they make you change your perspective a little bit. Being to a yachru, the yarka agus an chuí a bhín tú ag smaoinmh fin rud é hain, kind of the way you think or the way you view, I suppose, the situation and the thing itself. And yeah, I just thought especially on today with the election going on in the US, go háirithe leis an Toghcháin siúil san seachtain agus gach duine fud an tau ní gach duine, like people here in Spain don't seem to care an chuid smó den na daoine seo sa Spáin is cumalló, agus I think they're right ceapan gohfuil an ceart acu to be more concerned with, again, especially here, people are more concerned about what's happening in Valencia. Tá níos mó sime ag daoine faoi cad atá siúil Valencia, and even if that didn't happen, I think in general there's more of an outlook here of let's think about ourselves and focus on our own problems and what's going on in our own country. Caiimid dúras deach ar cad atá siúil in our tír féin agus in our bubble féin agus len our górds a féin with our own friends, with our own family, len our glán féin, instead of 24/7 being obsessed with a race between a 75-year-old man and a 50-year-old woman for a job in America. In áit a bheith có gafa agus chomh obsessed just dócha le cad tarsúil le rás idir fear 65 bliana díos agus ban a thart ar 5 bliana díos san stáitínta áit nach raibh mé féin riomh mar hampla, a place that I was never in my life. I was never there, and that I may never be there in my life. Chance nach mé an sin go dó in my hail. So, I think sometimes things like that, they give you a bit of perspective. Tugann say beginning perspective dit agus cuimhníonn tú ar na rudí atá tábhachtach I the hail agus, a lot of people speaking about the election this week. A lot daoine ag labhairt faoin Toghcháin an seachtain seo, and maybe instead of saying this person has to win or it'd be horrible if that person lost or that person won, bheadh sé go thuúfásach, like mas rud é go muan an duine seo nó mas rud é go gailen an duine sin. Maybe let the people in America, let the people in the US decide for their own country and let them deal with it instead of always kind of pushing in and trying to influence everything else outside of that in odds. I géirí tionchar a bheith agat ar gach eile ar fad nán. Tin sa ghfuil tionchar agat é de héal hain agus ghfuil tionchar agat é de phobal hain in your own community. So yeah, Sinead, guys, a much more serious podcast this week. Put Gaeilge Wadney's era on seachtain seo. I started speaking on the lag and líofa on the fluent version, and it just ended up kind of going this way. And then I always try and replicate it for the other two. I go on each éanamíocht on rud céine a dhéanamh on Toghcháin. So apologies if it was a bit heavy. It'll be more lighthearted next week. But I thought it was important to talk about with, a few different things going on at the moment in the world, like cúpla rud difriúil siúil faoi láthair simple on down. Big thank you as always for listening. Guys, we will be back as usual next week. So gur míle maith if mar is gannach as a bheith géisteacht agus baimidirás an seachtain se thugan. Goodbye and God bless. Slán agus bacht.